Hello everyone, and welcome to my home here in East Tennessee on this gorgeous spring day. My channel is buzzing with questions about fertilizing, and I can understand why. New growths on our orchids means a new growing season. And we all wonder, what should I be fertilizing with? How much should I use, and how often? The last fertilizing video I did was about 6 weeks ago when it was still cold, and I had to adjust my fertilizer recipe down just a bit. Now spring is here, the days are longer and warmer, and with that I'm changing back to my normal fertilizing routine. So I'll go over my fertilizer recipe that works for me and for many of you that I've heard from, and I'm going to go through some specific questions about calcium and magnesium supplements, mainly the use of garden lime and Epsom salt. And here is my fertilizer recipe for active growth. Per gallon of warm reverse osmosis water, I use 20 to 25 drops of CalMag, 1 teaspoon of Better Grow Orchid Plus, that's 5 mLs, and 30 drops of Grow More seaweed extract, and I mix it in that order. And I use it at every other watering, and then I use the CalMag and the seaweed extract at every watering. I do flush out the pots with just plain reverse osmosis water every month, once a month, on the first of the month. That way I can keep up with it. And if you'd like to watch me mix up this fertilizer, or if you want to see any of these products, I did a video that I'll place a link in the description box to you below. So now let's go over some specific questions. So many of you have asked me, do I still use Epsom salt? The answer is no. I get plenty of magnesium in the CalMag that I use. I don't want to use too much magnesium. It has to be in the right proportion to calcium, or it will block calcium absorption. And calcium absorption is so crucial to orchid health. Too much of a good thing can be a bad thing, especially in this case. So if you're using CalMag or Espuma pelletized garden lime on your orchids, I don't recommend you use extra Epsom salt. Another question that pops up in my comment section is, do you use garden lime? And the answer is yes. All my orchids that are growing in bark, not in moss. I use Espuma pelletized garden lime because it doesn't burn orchid roots like regular garden lime that you use in your yard. That's not meant for plants or orchids. It must be in pelletized form or it will damage your orchid's roots. And why don't I use the pelletized garden lime on my orchids growing in moss? It's because moss likes acidic conditions and garden lime neutralizes pH. So moss doesn't like garden lime. The moss looks like it's been burned when garden lime is used on it. And when you're growing in moss, remember that it holds nutrients very well. So the CalMag is enough for the moss to thrive in and not burn. Bark, on the other hand, isn't affected this way. Orchiata bark, the one that I use and recommend, is treated with dolomite, a naturally occurring source of calcium and magnesium, and it promotes the health of the plant. So after about 6 months of regular watering and fertilizing, the dolomite in the orchiata bark is washed off, and you can apply the pelletized garden lime. I apply it 2 or 3 times a year. Actually, right now would be a good time for you to apply it. And a 6-inch pot, I'm going to use about 1/3 of a teaspoon or just a few mLs. And in a larger pot, let's say an 8 or 9 inch pot, I'm going to sprinkle about a half a teaspoon or 2.5 mLs. And then you're going to water the pot. And some of you have asked to specifically see the bag of garden lime that I use. As you see, it's Espuma. It is available at any garden centers in the United States, and it is also available on Amazon if you live in the United States. Orchids love calcium, so providing sources of calcium and magnesium is really important for the health of your plant. Keep in mind that if you use Better Grow fertilizer, it has no calcium. So if you use a fertilizer without calcium, it must be added or your new growths won't be strong and sturdy and you'll get dieback. Calcium and magnesium have to be in the right proportion as well. CalMag and the Espuma garden lime have the right proportion of calcium to magnesium. And so adding magnesium in the form of Epsom salt isn't recommended. It's kind of like taking a multivitamin. There are certain elements that you take very small doses of in your vitamins because you don't want to take more than a recommended amount of certain vitamins because too much of a dose can be harmful. There's a balance to it. It's the same way with fertilizers and supplements that you use with your orchids and your plants. Another question I'm asked is, do I still use CalMag with the orchids in bark that are also treated with the Espuma garden lime? The answer is yes, I do. I've been doing this for over 2 years now, maybe 3 years, and my orchids are thriving. And I thought we would end the video back with my beautiful Cattleya. I have a definite ID on this. Thanks to Patrick, Growing Orchids in Montana. This is GCT Lawless Gloriana. And thank you so much, Patrick, for coming up with that ID. I looked at it and yes, that is this Cattleya. So I'm so happy to have that ID after all of these years. I used to have it and I was such a young orchid grower. I was inexperienced and I didn't realize to keep the ID. So I learned. So I want to thank everyone for all of your awesome comments and questions. I enjoy hearing from you all. And if you do leave a question, it really helps me to know where you're from. And it also makes it interesting for everyone reading my comment section to see where you are in the world. So please continue to let me know. You all are such a blessing to me, and I'd love to say the blessing over all of you, your families, and your orchids. The Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you his shalom peace. You all make it a great day, and we'll see you next time.